encourage, in fact, they have radio ads telling people to come in and sign for food stamps before you become destitute. You don't get in trouble. Well, when the illegals come in to sign up for food stamps, they get around this process by, it's illegal to give stamps in Oregon to illegal aliens, but they get around that by just not asking. They just don't ask if they're legal or not. So, it may be illegal, but we don't know if they're legal or not because we don't ask. So they get the benefits anyway. Well, recently uncovered documents prove that the Obama administration has been working with the Mexican government to increase the number of illegal immigrants on food stamps. Now, let me tell you why. When more illegal immigrants go on food stamps, J.P. Morgan makes money. How can it be? J.P. Morgan has made at least $560 million processing electronic benefit transfer cards. J.P. Morgan makes between 31 cents and $2.30 for every single person on food stamps. That doesn't include things like ATM fees or things like that. So J.P. Morgan has a vested interest in seeing poverty grow, the number of people on food stamps to increase. Meanwhile, the Obama administration has been aggressively trying to expand participation in the food stamp program. Under Obama, the number of food stamps has grown from 32 million to more than 47 million just on food stamps alone. And even though poverty in America is exploding, that apparently is not good enough for the Obama administration. It's now come out that the U.S. Department of Agriculture has provided the Mexican government with literature that actively encourages illegal aliens to enroll in food stamps. One of these flyers that they're distributing says this in Spanish: "You need not divulge information regarding your immigration status in seeking the benefits for your children," because this is all about the children. The bold and the underlining are in the original document. In case you were wondering, overall federal spending on food stamps increased from $18 billion in 2000. Listen to this: $18 billion in 2000 to $85 billion in 2012. It went from $18 billion to $85 billion. At this point, 1 out of every 5 households are now enrolled in the food stamp program. When people illegally or fraudulently enroll in the food stamp program, it makes it harder for people that really need it to get the help they need. Now, it's certainly a good thing to help fellow Americans that are suffering, but it's a crying shame more than 1 million public school students in America are homeless. That should not be happening in what is considered to be the wealthiest nation on earth. Today, we have a system that's turned poverty into big business. According to an article that was posted on Breitbart, J.P. Morgan has made at least $560 million, and probably more, just processing the EBT cards. A new report by the Government Accountability Institute finds that J.P. Morgan has made at least $560 billion since 2004 processing electronic benefits cards. And that's just in 18 of the 24 states it has under contract in the stamp program. A Daily Beast article provided some more details about this very same thing. How lucrative J.P. Morgan's EBT state contracts are, and how hard it is to say exactly, because total national data on EBT contracts are not reported. But thanks to a combination of public records requests and contacts that are available online, here's what we do know. 18 of the 24 states that J.P. Morgan handles have been contracted to pay the bank up to $560 billion since 2004. Since 2007, Florida has been contracted to pay J.P. Morgan $90 billion. Pennsylvania's 7-year contract totaled $112 billion. New York's 7-year contract was $126 million. These contracts are transactional contracts. They're amicable based. They're based on charges and program participation. So each month, the 3 companies that administer these EBTs receive a small fee that can range from 31 cents to $2.30, depending on the number of welfare services on the EBT card. For each one of these SNAP recipients. So SNAP is food stamps, but the EBT cards not only has food stamps, but it also has cash benefits on it. So the more benefits that are on the card, the more JP Morgan charges for it. That's why the difference between 31 cents and $2.30. 31 cents is probably just the food stamps. But if they get food stamps and cash and say WIC or other things, the more benefits they get on this EBT card, the more JP Morgan charges them. Up to $2.30 per transaction. Now multiply that by 47 million every month. JP Morgan is making a buttload of money. So the more people that are out of work that need to turn to the government for food, the bigger profits JP Morgan makes. JP Morgan was also a recipient of bailouts. What makes all of this even more insulting is a lot of the jobs that JP Morgan could be providing to Americans to help alleviate these poverty problems are being shipped overseas. JP Morgan is shipping their jobs overseas. So why doesn't anybody do anything about this? Well, it turns out that JP Morgan has the politicians that oversee the food stamp program in their back pocket. You know, there's a Money Morning article here that says this. And the bank has taken steps to make sure the SNAP program remains a growing source of revenue. JP Morgan's political donations to the members of the House and Senate Agricultural Committees, the ones with legislative responsibility for the program, soared from just over 82,000 in 2002 to nearly 330,000 as of 2010. What a wonderful system we have, huh? So what have they done here? They're going to the people who are responsible for signing up people in the SNAP and the welfare program. And they're basically telling them the more people you sign up, the more money we're going to donate to you. My goodness. My friends, this is... But yet, nobody hears this kind of stuff. They're just not listening. You know, let's hear what IMF says about what's coming.
It's true.
Let's suppose that political leaders remain dilatory or resistant. What happens?
If they cannot address this in a credible way, I believe within perhaps 2 to 3 weeks we will have a meltdown in sovereign debt, which will produce a meltdown across the European banking system. We're not just talking about a relatively small Belgian bank. We're talking about the largest banks in the world, the largest banks in Germany, the largest banks in France. That will spread. It will spread to the United Kingdom, in part through sovereign debt problems in Ireland. It will spread everywhere because the global financial system...
That's the wrong clip. This one.
Meet Uncle Sam. He has a lot of bills to pay. Almost $4 trillion worth every year. Uncle Sam's income is a little over $2 trillion per year. To make up the difference, the deficit, he does what most Americans do. He borrows money. When Uncle Sam takes out a loan, he calls it a bond. Bonds can be held by banks, investors, or even foreign governments. Uncle Sam has to promise to pay interest on these bonds, just as you do on any loan you take out. Ever think about paying your mortgage with your credit card? That's exactly what Uncle Sam does. He takes out new loans, new bonds, so that he can make payments on the old ones. All those loans, and especially all that interest, adds up. Right now, Uncle Sam owes about $14 trillion. To put that in perspective, $14 trillion is about the same as the national GDP, the total value of all the goods and services produced by the American economy in an entire year. It's such a huge amount of money that Uncle Sam is starting to run out of people to borrow from, and he's having trouble just paying the interest on his loans. The obvious solution would be to either cut spending or increase taxes. But if he cut spending, the people that he's spending money on would complain that they don't have money to spend and that he was hurting the economy. If he tried to raise taxes enough to close this gap, not only would people definitely have less money to spend, he'd probably have riots on his hands. So Uncle Sam chooses the easy way to make money. Just make it. He calls up the Federal Reserve, which is our central bank, and, like magic, dollars are created and deposited in banks all around America. The problem is that the more of something there is, the less it's worth. Same goes for the US dollar. The more dollars there are, the less each one will buy. That's why commodities like gasoline, food, and gold become more expensive when Uncle Sam does his money-making magic. The commodities aren't really worth more. Your money is just worth less. That's called inflation. Remember the foreign governments that lent money to Uncle Sam? When they lent money to the American government, something interesting happened. It made the U.S. look richer and their countries look poorer. When a country looks poor compared to America, $1 of our money buys a lot of their money. So they can pay their workers only a few pennies a day. With such low labor costs, they can sell their products in America for lower prices than any American manufacturer can. The easiest way for American companies to compete is to move their factories overseas and pay their workers a few pennies a day too. This contributes to a recession. Americans lose their jobs, stop paying taxes, and start collecting government benefits like Medicaid and unemployment. This means that Uncle Sam has even less income and even more expenses. At the same time, the people who still have jobs are desperate to keep them, so they tend to do more work but not to get paid anymore. When your dollars are worth less and you're not earning more of them, that's called stagflation. And this is why Uncle Sam is in a catch-22. He can't raise taxes or cut spending without making the recession worse. And he can't have the Federal Reserve create more money without making inflation worse. For now, he can keep borrowing money, but since he can't even pay the interest on the loans he already has, it just makes his inevitable bankruptcy even worse. Whether it's in 2 months or 2 years, the day will come when Uncle Sam can no longer pay his bills. When that happens, the banks, investors, and foreign governments who are counting on that money won't be able to pay their bills. You see, just like Uncle Sam, governments, banks, and corporations don't actually have much money. Mostly, all they have is debt to each other. If one link in the debt chain stops paying, defaults, the whole thing falls apart. If investors can't pay their bills, corporations won't be able to pay their employees. If banks can't pay their bills, you won't be able to take out a loan, use a credit card, or even withdraw your savings. If foreign governments can't pay their bills, their own banks and corporations will have the same problems. That's called a global economic collapse. It's never happened before, so nobody really knows how bad it will be, how long it will last, or even how we'll eventually get out of it. The house of cards has already been built. There's no painless way to dismantle it now. All we can do is to educate each other about what's actually going on and to prepare for what may be very extraordinary circumstances.
To illustrate the point, for some reason, the mainstream media has stopped reporting on what's going on overseas. Do you remember Cyprus? We talked a little bit about Cyprus in the last program when they were taking money out of people's bank accounts. Well, I want to give you, according to some researchers, some signs that we are already on the verge of a global collapse. It just hasn't reached us yet. But I'll tell you, it's on the way. We cannot continue to print fiat money that's backed by nothing. Every time you do that, just like the clip said, every